The NBA draft order has been set. We know where the top prospects are going, so let's get started with my 2023 mock draft 2.0.
With the first pick, the San Antonio Spurs select
Victor Wembanyama. This guy is 7'5", 220 pounds, out of France. He's playing in the professional league over there in France, and he is the most talked about, hyped prospect since LeBron James came into the NBA in 2003. And this guy, I mean, what more can you say about Victor Wembanyama? 7'5", moves like a forward. You can definitely compare him to guys like Kevin Durant, but even taller. He has the handle, he has the shooting ability, although he does need to improve his three-point shooting. He's not the perfect player yet, but in terms of a prospect and a guy that you would want to start from scratch and build your team around from scratch, this guy could not be the more perfect prospect. San Antonio lucks out again and gets an absolute generational talent at number 1, when the last time they got it was Tim Duncan in 1997 and David Robinson before that in the 80s. So San Antonio continues to luck out when they decide to tank, and here they get the most talked about prospect possibly of all time.
the second pick, the Charlotte Hornets select
Scoot Henderson out of G League Ignite. He's a 6'2" guard, 195 pounds. This kid is built, although he doesn't have a lot of stature. Definitely reminds you of a Derrick Rose, Ja Morant, maybe even a Russell Westbrook from an athletic standpoint. He can absolutely jump out of the gym for his size. And he has a decent mid-range pull-up as well. He needs to work on his three-point shooting. He's a really solid playmaker. Really has the potential to be a high-level on-ball defender as well. And I think that Charlotte just takes best player available here regardless of position. I think he would actually fit pretty well with LaMelo Ball, considering LaMelo is a good off-ball shooter. And he has been playing with Terry Rozier for these past couple years, and I think that will actually help them coexist in the backcourt. Obviously, Rozier is more naturally a point guard, but he does play the 2 a little bit with LaMelo over there and plays more off ball. I think Scoot can do the exact same thing, and they can just kind of alternate who is running the offense at certain times. This is a very dangerous backcourt, and I think Charlotte just gets way more exciting adding Scoot Henderson to the mix.
With the third pick, the Portland Trailblazers select
the best of the top 3 that is left here in Brandon Miller. Now, there is a lot of speculation that Portland is looking to trade this pick for a win-now player. I'm not sure who they could trade it for. Maybe a DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Pascal Siakam is another name. OG Anunoby, DeAndre Ayton. There's a couple guys on the market. I don't really think any of those guys, maybe besides Siakam, is worth a number 3 pick, but even he is on an expiring deal, so that would be very dangerous for a team like Portland to do. But if they really want to bring in a superstar, I guess that's the way to do it. Definitely trading a top 3 pick, and any team that would receive this pick is getting a nice building block in Brandon Miller. If Portland does keep the pick, I also think he fits in perfectly there. They need guys that are defensive, lengthy wings on the perimeter, and I think Miller has a chance to be a really, really good shooter, 3-and-D plus. You know, I think he has ability to create on the ball as well. I don't think that will be his calling card coming into the league, but I think he can definitely develop that, and I think he would fit in really nicely in Portland, whether they decide to keep him or trade the pick for a star. With the number 4 pick, we have the Houston Rockets, who unfortunately fell out of the top 3. Them and Detroit fell out of the top 3, which is extremely unfortunate, but you can still pick up a good value player here. It's obviously a second tier prospect. Obviously the first tier is those top 3. Now it starts to get into maybe not so consensus at this point.
With the 4th pick, the Houston Rockets select
Amen Thompson here, 6'7" point guard, out of Overtime Elite. Now, this league did have lesser competition, so it might be a red flag that even Amen struggled shooting the ball in a league that has lesser competition, but he obviously has the physical tools and IQ that it takes to be a top prospect in the draft. And you never know, he could be Sean Livingston before all of his injuries. He could be a Penny Hardaway type. Obviously, a lot of guys have been compared to Penny Hardaway before, but this guy legit has the same type of athleticism that Penny did. And I don't know, I feel like he could end up turning out to be a good player for the Houston Rockets, who desperately need an on-the-ball playmaker and a good defender in the backcourt, considering Jalen Green's lack of defensive ability there. And there's also rumors about Houston trading this pick if they were to end up getting James Harden in the offseason. I don't think that's a good idea necessarily, but if that's the case, then they could definitely get a solid winning player with this. Like I said, you know, a couple of the names that I mentioned before, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, you know, guys like that would fit really well in Houston. And we'll see what they do, but I have Amen Thompson going to the Houston Rockets at number 4.
With the 5th pick, the Detroit Pistons select
Cam Whitmore out of Villanova, 6'7", 225 pounds. This kid is a beast on the wing. He can play the 3 or the 4 position, potentially even the 2. He has a little bit of a handle, definitely needs to work on that a little more. He's a decent shooter from outside, definitely needs to improve on that as well. But he is a hound defensively, and he has a lot of athleticism, can definitely jump out of the gym. I really like Cam Whitmore, one of my favorite prospects in this draft. I think he's going to end up being a really good player and fits in perfectly with Detroit, a physical body that can guard guys on the wing, which they definitely need.
With the 6th pick, the Orlando Magic select
Ausar Thompson out of Overtime Elite. Obviously, this is Amen Thompson's twin brother, Ausar, and they do have similarities in their game in terms of being 6'7", you know, obviously having elite athleticism. I think Ausar is definitely more of an off-the-ball player, which I think the Magic do need more than a guy like Amen here. And he's obviously the better shooter out of the two, although they both do struggle with shooting a little bit. But I think Ausar would fit in really nicely with the Magic as a potential 2-guard of the future there. And if not, he can come off the bench and really be a spark plug of athleticism off of that bench on the wing to back up a guy like Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. And I think you just take a swing on the best potential at number 6. The Magic have 2 picks in this draft. They own Chicago's pick at number 11 as well. So at this pick, you can take a swing, and at 11, maybe pick a guy that's more safe. But I have Ausar Thompson to the Magic at 6.
With the 7th pick, the Indiana Pacers select
the power forward they desperately need in Jarace Walker. This guy is a ball of energy and intensity on the defensive end, with potential to become a little bit more on the offensive end than just a rim runner. I think he has potential to shoot the ball from the outside. I think he has potential to even play make a little bit from that power forward position. But I think he fits in fantastically next to Miles Turner, who's a great floor spacer at center and a great rim protector. I think this helps build Indiana's defensive identity more, and I think that he's going to benefit heavily from playing with a guy like Tyrese Halliburton. Anybody would, but I think Walker will definitely benefit from him a lot and get the ball in the places that he needs early on in his career.
With the 8th pick, the Washington Wizards select with the 9th pick, the Utah Jazz select
Taylor Hendricks out of UCF. This guy is another one of my favorite prospects in the draft. 6'9", absolutely long arms, great defensive intensity and intangibles. He has great instincts on the defensive side of the ball. He's one of those guys that can really just be a Swiss Army knife all over the floor. Think Jonathan Isaac when he was healthy, that he could really lock down guys. He has that type of potential. Even a guy like Jaden McDaniels on Minnesota, he has that kind of defensive potential. Very excited to see Taylor Hendricks in the NBA. I think he'll thrive with the spacing, and he's also a solid standstill three-point shooter. I think it's going to be difficult for him to develop an off-the-dribble game. He definitely struggles handling the basketball, but I don't think they're going to ask much of that in Utah. I think he makes a perfect fit in between Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. Imagine that defensive front court of Hendricks and Walker Kessler. Is anybody going to score on that? And then Lauri Markkanen hitting threes on the wing. I mean, that's a tough trio to stop. And I think this is an absolute steal at number 9 for Utah.
With the 10th pick, the Dallas Mavericks select
Grady Dick out of Kansas, the 6'7" shooting guard, small forward, absolute sharpshooter. Definitely reminds you of a guy like Klay Thompson or even Kevin Huerter to a lesser extent. He has more ability than just shooting the three, can definitely take it off the dribble, and he has more athleticism than you think as well. And I think he would make a fantastic addition in Dallas. I think they need another wing there that can do a little bit of everything, that can create a little more. Obviously, you need guys to take pressure off of Luka all the time, and I think he would make a fantastic addition in Dallas. But I do hear a lot of rumors of them trying to trade out of this spot and trade this pick to acquire win now talent. I'm not really sure who they could get with the 10th pick in this draft, considering the talent does drop off at this point. It's not the same as the top 3 or even the top 5, but potentially could get somebody decent. Maybe they could get a guy like OG Anunoby for this 10th pick. Who knows? I don't know what the Raptors would want, but that is just a name being thrown out there. Maybe a DeAndre Ayton as well. They do need some rim protection. They just need any type of defense in Dallas. So I think they take Grady Dick as best player available here, and then they figure it out later if they want to trade him. And if they keep him, at least they get a young shooter with potential.
With the 11th pick, the Orlando Magic select
another Michigan player here in the 6'8", son of former Magic player Juwan Howard, Jett Howard. And I think this is a really solid pick here. The Magic need shooting. This guy is a movement shooter specifically. He can shoot it off the catch, off the dribble. He definitely has some creation skills that I think people aren't talking about enough. He definitely needs to work on his defense, of course, but with that 6'8" frame, I think he has potential to be better on that end, especially in a good system. And I think he plugs in perfectly, whether he's a bench guy for you, just as a sharpshooter off the bench, or in that 2-guard spot between Markelle Fultz and Franz Wagner on the wing, if he does fulfill his potential. And I think this is a fantastic pick for the Orlando Magic. They've had a good track record with Michigan players, and I have them taking Jett Howard here at 11.
12th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder select
another guy that fits their archetype there in Anthony Black. This is a guy that can play multiple positions. He can switch all around the court. Reminds you a little bit of Josh Giddey in terms of a tall playmaker. I think he's a better defender than Giddey, definitely. And I think he fits in perfectly as an energy guy off the bench, potentially a long-term replacement for a guy like Lou Dort, depending on if OKC will keep him long-term, or they might use him as a trade chip moving forward to acquire some better talent. But I think he fits in really nicely with what OKC is building, just a bunch of switchable guys on the wing, and then their one big man in Chet Holmgren, who we will see what he can do this upcoming season. And yeah, I think OKC gets another really solid player here at number 12.
With the 13th pick, the Toronto Raptors select
Nick Smith Jr. out of Arkansas. Obviously, this guy has slipped a lot since the beginning of the season, and it's mostly because of his inefficiency, because of his injuries. Who knows if that inefficiency was due to his injuries, but he was pretty inefficient and he didn't have a good showing in the NCAA tournament. But I think the Raptors need a point guard. They need a scorer that can create off the dribble, and I think Nick Smith is exactly that. Reminds you a little bit of a Jordan Poole type, maybe a Jamal Murray if he reaches that full all-star type potential, but I think he's worth taking a shot here at number 13 for Toronto. And finally, with the last pick in the lottery,
with the 14th pick, the New Orleans Pelicans select
Dereck Lively out of Duke. He is a 7'1" center, great rim protector, solid rebounder, reminds you of a Tyson Chandler type of player. There's always these type of guys in the draft, and New Orleans desperately needs rim protection there. They've been playing Jonas Valanciunas at center for a couple years now, and he definitely gets exposed when it comes to players attacking the rim, and I think they need a long-term solution there. I don't think Jackson Hayes ended up working out for them, so why not take a shot on another defensive center here? Maybe a guy that you believe in a little more than Hayes at this point, and in terms of, you know, Hayes being a free agent this upcoming summer, I think this is a smart move for New Orleans here at number 14. But this pick is also speculated to be traded, considering New Orleans wants to win now with their core of Zion, CJ, and Brandon Ingram. And who knows what they could get for the 14th pick, but they could definitely get a solid role player here, a decent guy, maybe a more veteran center. Maybe package it with Valanciunas and you can get a better center that fits your needs more than Valanciunas does currently. And we'll see what New Orleans does, but right now I have them taking Dereck Lively here at number 14. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Also, please tell me what you thought about my picks down below in the comments, and subscribe if you haven't already. And most importantly, have a great rest of your day.